Hello, everybody. Larry Young here again with another segment of OLaMan Living Life with Purity. And today I want to talk about how life is a bitch and then you die. And this is a lesson that's been told to me many times over the years by my dear mother, who is now 100 years old. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of wisdom comes out of that broad the more you talk to her. And I always thought that when I was a kid, that my parents were stupid. I was a typical kid. When you're young, you always think your parents are dumb and that they don't know anything. They're stupid. And then you get to be about 30 years old and you realize, your parents got pretty smart over the last 15 or 20 years. So this is how life goes if you mature and grow up and realize what the accountability factor is for you as an individual, not on everybody else, but your own personal accountability and responsibilities in life. When you accept those and mature into a responsible adult, everything becomes clear. If you don't, then you get a bad correction in your lenses and nothing seems straight. Does that make any sense? Let's dive into that a little bit. Right now, there is a transition that's going on in our culture. It's pretty obvious. A lot of people I see commenting that it's the young men. Young men are becoming more conservative. And this scares the progressives because they thought that they had these young men by the feminine balls all through their grade school and college years. But they didn't count on nature having such a strong gravitational pull on young men and women. And what has happened in the reactions and the responses of the two different pools of people is really leading to where our circumstances are today. A lot of people that were trying to create this chaos out in the world didn't expect that the young men would not follow along obediently like they had thought during grade school and in high school years when they were trying to indoctrinate these young guys. They were very successful with the women. And the women basically followed the path that was set before them by these progressives or these indoctrinators in our schools. The women have fallen into that hook, line, and sinker, whereas some of the men may have gone along with it and they gave up their accountability, their responsibility as men, but they're the weak ones and you're going to lose some along the way. But a lot of the stronger ones who had good formation, and I would submit had a father in the home, have not followed down that path. I believe that the households that did not have a father, a male influence in the home, have suffered the loss of more of their young men who have become more like women in the brain and sometimes in the way they behave. So it's a choice. It's a poor choice. And it's a choice that is definitely going to have some ramifications with the natural order and how things are going to go about as they deal with life. So the young men, they thought, all pulled to the right, when actually it was more of the young men pretty much stayed the same. It was the women who went so far left. It gave this polarizing effect that the young men had gone to the right, when actually it was young women had pulled so far to the left that they basically abdicated their stance in the discussion. They became such an outlier that they can't be counted on to be normal in relation to historical tendencies. Does that make any sense? Women are batshit crazy now. The guys are still trying to hold on to Mother Nature. Simple. All right, so the women are so far out, they've become so progressive. They've been taught that what they need to do is they need to focus on all these social justices, all these things out here on the outskirts of our culture, of our humanity, of our path towards success in the universe, if you will. That all these things out here that if they concentrate on those things, that gives them greater virtue. They're morally superior in the world because they care this much. When in reality, their nature is saying they should be concentrating on this and here and their own local priorities, be that as it may. So what the progressive leaders and indoctrinators wanted to do was to get rid of this natural, what we want to say, nurturing response that women are supposed to have. They're supposed to protect the children and the home and this local environment, while as the men are supposed to be protecting this outer sphere. They are the big battlers. They're supposed to take on the war of the world, whereas women are supposed to protect the household, the children, and the livelihood of this family unit growing together and into a point of success and growing these kids into mature, capable adults. Stop raising children. They're perfectly good at it. Raise adults. And adults have to realize that there's success and failure along the way of life, and this is how it goes. So what the progressives tried to do to the women was to get them to give up on this local responsibility and accountability about things by saying that kids are really for women who can't achieve. You know, that the real achievers out there, the real winners in this game of life are the women who go out there and they, forge ahead. They abandon families. Families don't matter. It's all about them, their personal, their own personal growth, this selfishness that is about them that they need to stand up for. And when women are in this path towards greater selfishness, if you will, or it's all about me and look at me and, aren't I beautiful? Why don't you love me? I'm beautiful. Look at me. And this sort of selfish and hedonistic response has really turned out to ruin a lot of women along the way, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. So what the progressives try to do is to get the women to shed this local responsibility, this nature about themselves, for what the progressives want to say is this more important argument out here, that these things out here really don't impact women on their local lives at all. It doesn't really impact any of us at all. That's why they always say that politics is all local, and you have to take care of your local politics if you want to have a happy life. Take care of what is going on around you that you can touch and affect. The big stuff out there will end up taking care of itself, but what you have to do is you have to take care of your own neighborhood, your own locality. Work on that if you want to have a better life. That's where the start is. And for women and men that are starting out, this is supposed to be what the family unit is about, and these responsibilities that dad is supposed to have to protect, the family at large, and the women are supposed to protect the individual units, as a select target here. That each of the kids are going to have different needs, and mom needs to help find those things out, and dad needs to help provide for these things that are necessary. So it's an art that goes with it, but a lot of women find that to be too much pressure, too much responsibility. So they abdicate their nature and put that all off and say, well, you've got IVF, you've got all these other things we'll take care of you. Go and concentrate on your career. 40's not too old to have a baby. Yeah, no, you're still okay. Then women hit that wall out there, and they realize they put on the 50 to 60 pounds. They're not as cute as they used to be. And they wonder, what happened to all the guys? How come nobody wants me? Well, you made yourself too unattractive in so many different ways that no guy is really after that. And so you're going to be alone. Sorry. Life's a bitch and then you die. You made your choices. You can't win against nature. Never have, never will. You can't fight the tide of the ocean. Never have, never will. When you try to beat nature at its own game. And I'm talking about the women right now. They get sullen and kind of a mentally funky loneliness that invades their life. And they don't use positive words when they talk with people anymore. They don't have uplifting, colorful phrases about their lives. They see themselves as more of one of the 50 shades of gray, if you will, but not in the sexy way, but in the, the dungeon of life kind of way that they've made out for themselves. They've made poor choices, and they can't get out of it because if they reject and change, then that's an admission that they were a failure, and they can't stand that because that's the last straw that will either pushes them closer to through their angry thoughts into this radicalism. And this radicalism, if they can't find favor with that and they realize that being a radical about these things isn't going to pay off in the way that the progressives and the people on TikTok and all like that told them it would. When that doesn't happen and they find this ultimate loss and this failure in their life, and they realize that nobody out there really is interested in them to love them in the way that they feel they need to at this point, then they're driven to thoughts of self-harm and suicide. Now, this is a terrible thing to think about, but these people see the loss of life and your own suicide as being the ultimate virtue signal. So that, weren't they wonderful? Oh my gosh, they just weren't understood if we'd only listened to them. I think that this is what's going to happen with this Greta Thunberg girl. I think eventually they're going to find her dead in some hotel room someplace. She'll have overdosed on something because life wouldn't have worked out. Everything that everyone told her she was so wonderful at and all these things. She's going to realize one day in the mirror that no matter how she cuts her hair or no matter how she wants to define herself, the reality of looking in the mirror isn't going to match up with her perception. And this is when this, final door closes on them and they get so far gone that they can't come back. And this is where suicide enters in, and this is where the forlorn go to rest. And so if you don't think it's true, you look, Canada as a country has medically assisted induced death, suicide. Much to end one's life in Canada. A 26-year-old man just last week ended his life. He had diabetes. A very treatable situation. But he had diabetes at 26. He was depressed about it and didn't see a life ahead of him. They let him go ahead and end it with their help. What's going to be next? I got ingrown toenails. They hurt. They don't seem to go away. This is too much. 3 of my 5 cats died last year on me. There's no hope. No man wants me. I've seen all the TV shows. I don't want to be watching reruns the rest of my life. That's a reason to kill oneself, to end it. We're going to be seeing, I think, more and more women, crushing the doors for these assisted suicide types things. There's going to be a lot of people doing stuff at home. There's already things you can learn about on the internet if you want to end your life. It's getting to be too common and too easy for people to walk through that door with somebody holding the damn thing open for them. You would think that if somebody wants to end their life, they should have to bust the glass and open the lock from the inside, not having somebody there congratulating them on a heroic decision and holding the door open for them and asking them if they want cream with their coffee while they wait. This is really messed up, people, and we have to take the time to care. If you don't take the time to care now, it's going to be too late. And you're going to say, oh, I wish I should have done something. Don't wait. You can't wait. This is going on, and it's moving at such a quick speed right now. And I'm going to talk about how fast things move in my next podcast. A very interesting topic coming up. But this is so important. This is life and death. And this is the character of your nation and what it needs to stand for. Do we have a nation? Do we have any character? I don't care what church you go to. Where's the character? Where are the people standing up against this? Where is the outcry? They all say, oh, we're going to pray for them quietly in our own places. Too late for that. We need action. And we need people out there saying, no, we can't be doing this. We need to be forceful. We need to take the elections back. We need to make sure we've got some actual godliness in our society. Otherwise, it's heading to ruin faster than you think. It's worse than you think. So we have to take care of this, and we need to take care of this now. So think about this as we're in our Lenten period now. We've got several more weeks to think about these things and to try to get things right. This form of purity that these progressives are trying to talk about is nothing more than evil elixirs, an evil cocktail, the devil's own cocktail for these people to drink. And they are not receiving God. They are not receiving Jesus in any way. They're just painfully messed up. So we need to do more than pray for them. So in the meantime, I love you, and I'll be back.